If buying isn't owning, then piracy isn't stealing, which is why piracy is no longer seen as digital theft reserved for risk takers and your plug who knew a sketchy website. Now it's easier and more convenient than ever. TV, movies, sports, live events, whatever you want for free. It's become so normalized that piracy sites are getting more yearly visits than every streaming service combined. But this makes sense when you consider that every facet of the entertainment industry has been destroyed by corporations. Oklahoma City, and I really wanted to follow the Thunder and the entire Western Conference a couple years ago, so I bought NBA League Pass for $110 for the season. Silly me for thinking that one streaming service would have every game. League Pass only lets you watch games that are out of market, which meant I couldn't actually watch the Thunder games because I live in Oklahoma City and those rights belong to the FanDuel Sports Network. And if the game was nationally televised, that was exclusively broadcast on ESPN or TNT, which meant I needed a cable package or another app like Hulu Live or Sling just to catch the games literally happening in my city. As of right now, if you want to guarantee that you will be able to watch all of the NBA games in the US when they are actually happening live, you need to have ESPN, which requires you to have Hulu plus Live TV or YouTube TV or Sling Orange TV or with an upgraded cable package. Then you need Peacock, which is $11 per month. Then you need Prime Video, which is $9 per month, and ABC, which would come with your basic local cable subscription. The cheapest way to guarantee every game would be $66 in subscriptions and whatever your basic cable costs these days, which is on average about $25. So roughly $91 per month just to watch basketball, the cheapest. Now, me personally, I would never pirate anything. That is behavior I absolutely condemn. But I'm not surprised anyone who would do it when all you gotta do is go to one of the many widely available free websites, click the extremely clean and clear interface that says the exact game or event you are looking for, this detailed list of problems that piracy solves. Netflix used to be $8 per month and it had a deep catalog of some of the most popular shows ever made. The Office, Friends, Breaking Bad, Dexter, Family Guy, American Horror Story, Pretty Little Liars, Law and Order, and even some Disney and Pixar titles. They had the Harry Potter films, they had Star Wars, they had classic movies like Shawshank Redemption, The Godfather, The Dark Knight. They even had Marvel titles before Disney Plus launched. It felt limitless, like the entire entertainment industry was in one app for the price of a fast food meal. Today, $8.99 gets you 9,000 shows you will never watch, and that's with ads. And if you don't want ads, no problem, that's $25 a month. Plus, every studio with a morsel of valuable IP decided to make their own app. HBO Max, $21 a month. Hulu and Disney Plus, $19 a month. Peacock, $17. Apple TV Plus, Paramount Plus, Discovery Plus, Stars Play, BritBox, and niche ones like Shudder, Crunchyroll, Acorn TV all jumped into the fight, each charging $4 to $20 a month. I had to watch The Founder after doing research for my fast food video, but Netflix would not allow me to watch it since I pay for the cheapest version of Netflix that has ads. I was annoyed, but I thought maybe it had something to do with McDonald's having some sort of strict licensing issue that forced Netflix to lock it behind the premium tier. But it turns out there are 138 movies and TV series blocked on Netflix advertising tier. For $8 per month, you cannot watch Spider-Man, White Chicks, Boys in the Hood, or even the Garfield movie. Half the time, you don't even know whether something isn't available or not because of licensing contracts, region restriction. Ratings meant that the shows that survived were usually the best of the best. Every network was fighting for limited primetime slots, and if a show could not pull in millions of viewers week after week, it was canceled. There was no Friends, The Simpsons, The X-Files, Sex and the City, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I could go on and on. Networks weren't pumping out hundreds of new series every year just to fill catalog space. They were making sure the few shows they produced had the writing, acting, and budget. 2022, Seinfeld racked up 19.3 billion viewing minutes on Netflix, making it the 10th most watched show of that year. Compare that to one of their most popular originals, Wednesday, which was everywhere in 2022. Viral on TikTok, Jenna Ortega was launched into A-list fame. It was damn near a monoculture moment, yet it still drew fewer minutes than Seinfeld, a 30-year-old sitcom. Shows like The Umbrella Academy and The Rings of Power pulled in about half the audience, leaned into what's called the second screen era, where they assume that most viewers are watching TV while scrolling their phones, cooking, or before doing laundry. Hollywood writer, director, and producer Justine Bateman said, "I've heard from showrunners who are given notes from the streamers that this isn't second screen enough." Which begs the question, why would someone give all of their attention to something that is only designed to be consumed with half of their attention? According to reports, Netflix execs are urging screenwriters to have characters announce their actions out loud so that viewers can follow along without looking at the screen. For example, "We spent a day together," Lohan tells her lover James in Irish Wish. "I admit it was a beautiful day filled with dramatic vistas and romantic rain, but that doesn't give you the right to question my life choices. Tomorrow I'm marrying Paul Kennedy." "Fine," he responds. "That will be the last you see of me. Also, I make low-budget YouTube videos that are free to watch, not multi-million-dollar films behind a paywall. I don't know about you, but when I watch a movie, I like to pay attention." By training viewers to expect content that doesn't demand their full attention, Netflix is creating an audience that's even show needed to be excellent to survive. Way in the 2000s. Once cable became the dominant form of television in America, the few companies at the top could now take advantage of their market dominance. Cable prices climbed 40% in just 6 years, jumping from about $34 in 2000 to $47 in 2006. Meanwhile, inflation only rose 14.3% in that same period. Cable companies such as Comcast, Spectrum, Dish, DirecTV, and Cox started bundling networks into giant packages with hundreds, sometimes thousands of channels. If you wanted to watch ESPN, you were forced to also buy Lifetime, QVC, the Golf Channel, MTV3, and whatever else they decided to shove in. Companies are doing a similar tactic. They flood their platforms with new shows and movies you will never watch because adding volume creates the illusion of value, justifying their increasing price. Netflix alone released 589 new Netflix originals in 2024, just slightly over its 2023 total of 568. Netflix originals slowly take up more of their catalog and then they license less. In 2022, over 50% of their catalog was originals. Now, some of these originals are good. Ozark, Queen's Gambit, Beef are just a few off the top of my head, but the rest are mostly filler. They are watering down their product to save money instead of purchasing valuable shows. Netflix lost both Friends and The Office, two classic, reliable sitcoms that were some of the most watched shows on their platform, after Warner Media and NBC pulled the rights for their own services. To fill that gap, Netflix struck a massive deal to acquire Seinfeld, reportedly paying over $500 million for global streaming rights, and that's only for 5 years. So they would have to spend another fortune to keep the show. And this is the cycle we're stuck in now. Streamers don't want to pay billions to keep the classics that people actually want to watch, so they crank out repetitive, boring, low-budget originals that are literally designed for you to halfway pay attention to. Then they slowly raise the monthly price because look at all this new, fresh, original content we're giving you. And users have been conditioned to only watch casually anyways, so they barely notice the dip in quality. Plus, that's only one streaming service. Every company with a little bit of valuable IP started their own app and they're doing the same exact system. So now if you want a library of great shows and movies, you need to subscribe to multiple services. The average household actively uses around 4 streaming apps, and 8% even access 10 or more. That equals about $69 per month, which is just about the same price that cable was in the early 2010s when everyone jumped to streaming. Piracy is the solution to all of these problems. Piracy reached a low in 2020 with 130 billion website visits, which by the way is still a ton. But by 2024, that number had risen to 216 billion, and it's actually incredibly simple as to why. Gabe Newell, the founder of the online video game marketplace Steam, summarized this perfectly nearly a decade ago. "We think there is a fundamental misconception about piracy. Piracy is almost always a service problem and not a pricing problem. If a pirate offers a product anywhere in the world, 24/7, purchasable from the convenience of your personal computer, and the legal provider says that the product is region locked, will come to your country 3 months after the US release, and can only be purchased at a brick and mortar store, then the pirate service is more valuable. In short, convenience is key, and people are willing to pay, but why are they making it so complicated?" The music industry got it right for the consumer. They created something so simple that it wasn't even necessary to pirate music anymore. At its peak, Napster had nearly 80 million registered users downloading and sharing music for free. By the mid-2000s, sites like LimeWire and BitTorrent were handling billions of illegal downloads every year. Year over year, music revenue sales were dropping, and the music industry executives were convinced it was because of piracy. That's when Spotify, Apple Music, and other music streaming services came around to essentially make the Netflix of music. However, these services are better because there is no exclusivity. No matter what service you pay for, you will have access to basically the same exact music as any other platform. This isn't necessarily all good. This has devalued music incredibly, and artists get fractions of a penny per stream, but unfortunately the customer doesn't care because the service is better for them. But we might be able to tip own music over licensed music, but the problem is it's AI generated. But that's with pay-per-view events. For many years, Dana White and the UFC waged war against sites like Crackstreams, trying to convince everyone that he would get them shut down.
You kind of stirred the pot a little bit with the piracy, the online streamers. They want to come after you and give this thing away. So, any regret in kind of maybe stirring the pot a little bit?
I'm glad you asked me about that because we got one. We got him. We're watching this guy right now. All you have to do is turn it on Saturday, and we got you. I can't wait. Turn it on Saturday, streamers, and see what happens.
Nothing. Losing the battle with illegal pay-per-view streamers, and to everyone's surprise, he actually made a deal that benefits the consumer now. In 2026, all UFC events will air exclusively on Paramount networks in the United States. That means 13 marquee numbered events and 30 fight nights will air via Paramount Plus. For $13 per month, you can get all the UFC events and all of Paramount's content ad-free. This is actually a monumental shift. For the first time ever, fans will have access to the fights at the lowest cost in history. But it's not all positive. Some suspect that this is the beginning of the UFC resorting to basically all the exact issues I have already raised with streaming services. Once the UFC moves fully to a streaming platform, they've got your money locked in, whether the card is stacked with superstars or filled with nobodies. That pressure to deliver massive must-see events disappears overnight. And honestly, that's already been happening in the past couple years. The storytelling is basically non-existent, cards are bloated with fighters nobody cares about, their upcoming talent pool is getting less impressive and exciting, but now the cost of 13 marquee events have traditionally been paid based on pay-per-view points, meaning if the card sold well, they got paid well. Once that model disappears, the UFC has to raise base pay for their top stars just to keep them happy. That makes those stars more expensive to book, so to save money, the UFC will inevitably have them fight less. Fewer companies across the entire entertainment industry, besides music kinda, have overcomplicated their model of delivering content to customers for the sole purpose of squeezing every last dollar out of the end user. I believe now the costs are higher, the content is worse, and the convenience is gone. I've canceled nearly. Doesn't feel like stealing anymore. It feels like the logical solution.